Okay, my camera shut down on me just as I was talking about that earlier. I'm going to do this in a two-part thing. I'm going to do part one and part two, which is kind of good because I did want to add in some other touches to the sky. I felt that it was, I wanted to match kind of the values of the base a little bit in the sky with some additional tones. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, trying to figure out what colors I want to use up in that sky there. Maybe we'll go with some... Why don't we use some of this Memento London Fog Gray up in the sky as well. And I'll hit that on the two corners of the scene just to kind of frame things off a little bit more. And that fog isn't really that dark. I might have to go with a different color. Let's see. Well, let's go with black. Let's give it a try. We'll see how that goes. It's pretty dark. And one of the things I'm doing right here too is I probably didn't mention is that I'm kind of stroking the color on in the same kind of direction that this cloud is running in. It's kind of going like that, and I stamped it like this. So I'm trying to keep within that same, I guess, motion that the sky is already kind of inherently stamped out in. The brighter you want the lighter areas of your scene, the sources of light, I guess, you know, down in here, the darker you take the surrounding areas. Okay, let's see. Doesn't look too bad. I think I need... I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna bring in this this light pink. This is a bubblegum pink Marvy. We'll see what that does. Yeah, looks pretty good. It's kind of introducing an additional richness to the grays, I think. You know, that I just laid down. It's kind of got a little bit of a pink glow there, which is kind of interesting. Sometimes in a workshop, someone won't know if they want to go with a certain color or not, and they're not sure if they want to introduce it in their card because they're worried that it might kind of ruin what they've already kind of laid down. And oh, I don't know. I kind of think back to my beginning oil painting teacher in college. I always hear that same voice going through my head. She would always say things like, she'd always say the same thing. She'd say, not necessarily to me, but just to the class at large, or whoever asked her, she'd always say, you know, it's not precious. So, I don't know. What's the worst that can happen if you put some color down and you don't like it? And plus, when I'm doing it, I'm not doing like some big, bold, you know, color like that, too. I'm just kind of laying down a little bit at a time, and, you know, if you like it, then you can always add more. I like what happened there on that one, I think. And I think I've mentioned this in previous videos. If you want some of that light, color of light, reflecting down in your elements down below, why not bring in kind of a little bit of that here and there? Because after all, the sky, if that's the color of the sky, then you'd have some, you know, if you have pinks and whatnot, it's like a pink and purple colored light shining on things, so it's going to often reflect some of those colors that are happening up there, down below. And it creates a little bit of continuity too. It doesn't have to be as intense of a application of it up there as there is down here, but you know, start off light, and if you like it, then always, you know, work darker. Okay, now let's go back to these. Now I feel I'm more ready for this foreground tree. I was kind of trying to rush it, you know, before I had to go to, you know, step 1 and 2. All right, let's add in some additional trees here. Okay. It's kind of a strange looking landscape here, huh? All right, now I have some of this Leafless Limbs Lg in the foreground. I have it in the midground coming out of those rocks in there. Here's a smaller version of it. And if we have these on these rocks like this, what you can also do is, you know, change the scale of it a little bit, and in the background here, if I stamp out masking off those rocks again right there, why not have kind of a smaller version of this, and thus creating scale and depth in a scene. I guess it's creating depth in a scene through the use of scale. And you can stamp it, you know, smaller portion of it. Maybe it's going over the side a little bit more. Maybe it's a smaller bush. Who knows? This is kind of reminding me of the landscape after some of those wildfires we had a few years ago. And, I don't know, you know, going back to that idea of kind of something being a stage. If you have a stage, maybe you want to put some kind of, you know, player in there. Why not do a little deer or whatnot? Someone said this is a bull elk. I call it buck. Okay. This has this little base down here. I'm going to wipe some of that off. I don't think I need that in this instance, so I'm going to wipe it off pretty good. If some of it ends up showing up, so be it. And just position it like so, and adjust your pressure accordingly. If you're stamping out a really large stamp, you want to use good pressure, because it's being distributed over a much larger space. When you get down to kind of smaller stamps, you don't want it to create a big blob, right? And you know what I mean by that is sometimes people don't adjust their pressure, and when they stamp something out, let's see, here's a piece of scratch paper. If you don't adjust your pressure, you don't want to blob it out like that, you know, especially in a scene when you get it done like that. But again, right, it's not precious, so we shouldn't worry about it. Nevertheless, I know it, everyone's thinking, yeah, but, you know, I spend all this time on it, I don't want to ruin it, but I don't know, you know, when it comes to things like color choices and stuff like that, I always feel it's better to just kind of take a chance, you know, and if you've gone too far, then you'll know the boundaries, but if you're always kind of holding back a little bit, then you won't take a scene as far as, you know, maybe it's maximum resolution or something like that. And plus, you'll always learn, you know, you can keep in mind kind of a reference for the future as far as, you know, maybe when you should stop toning something in or adding, you know, additional images and whatnot. All right, this is that white gel pen. Add in some little, you know, first stars of twilight starting to sparkle through. In the end, it ends up being kind of just, you know, some additional texture to add into a scene, something nice and crisp against the background, little points of light, and I think that adds to the visual interest. You can't see some of these branches where it goes off into this darkness, but maybe if I put a few little highlights on a few of these branches, it'll pull those kind of trees that are disappearing into the dark background apart from that background. Alright, so I don't know if you see that at all. Do some additional ones. Now a little detail is on the branches on this side of the scene. I'm putting the highlights on their right side, and the trees on the right, I'm putting the highlights on the left side because, you know, the lighting for the most part is coming out of the center, this area of the scene. All right, so that's just a little, you know, tiny detail there, but I think by the time you do that, you know, over a large portion of the scene, it really helps to define the lighting direction. All right, and let's see, you can put some little highlights down on some of these rocks, maybe just to make them look a little bit more three-dimensional. Back when I used to talk about this gel pen in my workshops, I always would say, you know, take a look at your pads right here, and you can see where these little highlights are on the edges of these pads, or whatever you're doing. Even if it's something black like this, I can see some highlights of reflected light on it, and that's in a sense what, you know, we're doing with these gel pens right here. We're adding these little highlights and really pushing dimension one step further through the use of these little minute details. Okay. All right. So that's you know, an example of going in and blending some tones, layering your tones down, reflected light, kind of a really subtle example of that. I have some of that pink down in this area. But again, when you're laying things down, you're doing it in such thin layers, taking it nice and incrementally, so we don't have to take these big jumps in value. And you can see right here where green and pink and grays and blues, they kind of harmonize really nicely. When you're doing it that way, just laying down very light shades of things like that, you can see what's on the tip right there. Okay, so anyways, thanks for hanging in there and watching this two-part video if you sat through it, and hope you enjoyed it.